Hey, I'm Steven Kochitsky, creator of Galicia Archives. In this video, I'm going to show you how to find different types of documents and records, as well as font lists corresponding to different Ukrainian archives. And we're going to do so using the Wikisource Ukraine website. Now, if you find this video helpful, you know how to support the channel. So with that being said, let's get started. Okay, so to start, let's go to the website uk.wikisource.org, as you see up here in the address bar, or click on the link that I left for you in the details section below the video. Now, as you see up here, my translator is turned on, and the first thing you want to do when you get to this site is here under Projects in the left column, click on Archives, and it brings you to this page. Now you see up here, Archive:archives. This basically tells you where you are in this website, and it's part of record identification, which we'll look at in a few minutes. Now at any time, we could click here on Archives, and it brings you back to this page. Now, as we scroll down, we have Belarus and Russia, and underneath that we have Ukraine and many of its different archives and institutions, which is what we'll be looking at today. Now, to start here on top, we have genealogical projects, and underneath that, Jewish Town. Well, I already have a video on this, so I won't be covering it today. Then underneath that, we have Tales from Revise of the Volyn province. That's an error in translation. Those are basically revision lists, which are censuses of the taxable population. So to start, let's click here, and this is what we get. Now these numbers up here are interactive, but when we hover our mouse over them, here it says this page does not exist. And when we click on them, this is what we get, a page that does not exist, as you see up here. So what you want to do is click on Tales from Revise of the Volyn province, and it brings you here. Now here we have different sets of those revision lists for the Volyn province in order by year. And as you see, there are links, and at the end of each link, we have a number and C. Well, that's basically the number of results that we'll get. So for example, here at number 6, if I click on revision lists for 1811, we have 2 results, as is written here, to C. So if I would click on the first one for 1795, we have, as you see up here, 18 results. Now keep one thing in mind, these records are in alphabetical order, so when I take off my translator, you'll see here, for example, Z or N, but Z, when I put it back to English, it translates as with, which is what the letter Z could mean. And let's take a look at the first one. Now when you get on a set of records, this is often what you'll see. Here you have an icon. If you click on it, it opens up on the left side. And to scroll through the records, well, here you see next page. You keep clicking on the next page or previous page icons. So if I click on next page again, it brings you here. And now if we'd want to save this page, you click on it with the right button of your mouse. With the left button, you click Save Image As. And you could choose up here where you want to put it. I like to put it on the desktop. Save. You see it saved up here. And if we click on that, we have our record. And if I were to minimize the screen, you'd see that it's on my desktop. Okay. Let's get out of here. And before I come out of this document completely, remember we were under the letter Z. Well, here we have Zaslav district. And here if we go into a second one, L, here we see Labunsky district. Now in the link of each set of records that we have here, we see the word archive. Then we have the abbreviation of which archives this set of records is in. Then we have its archival number, which is font, description, and case. So basically this link tells you that in archive, which if we go back here, remember we saw archive, and this is archives being this section of the website. Well, this set of records you'll find under the link of this archive, case, description, and unit numbers, which we will see in a few minutes. Okay, now let's go back. Now here at the bottom, we have categories, and then we have Tales from Reviva, which should be revision lists. If we click on that, it brings us to all the revision lists in alphabetical order by province. And if we go back, here, the second link, Volyn province, brings us to all this material on the Volyn province. And as you see up here, it's all in alphabetical order by district. So for the fun of it, if we were to click here on Kremenetz County, and if we'd go in one of these, here we go. And also notice that these records span over 3 archives, as you see here, the Zhytomyr archives, here, the Rivne archives, and here, the Ternopil archives. Okay, let's get out of here. And let's take a look at the second one, revision lists for the Kiev province. Now here in this case, we could click on the bottom, and it brings us to a similar layout as it did before with the Volyn province. And down here we have our same link for revision lists in general, which brings us to this same place as it did before. And this second link for the Kiev province brings us to all the material on the Kiev province. Now for the fun of it, let's look at one of these. It has 11 subcategories, also in alphabetical order. Let's click on the first one. And let's click one of these. And there you go. Okay. And now, as I was telling you before, for the Kiev province, these numbers work. So if we were to look at 1806, it brings us to this type of layout. We could either click on the district in the table of contents here on the top left, or scroll down through the districts. Now, as you see in the headers, in the first column, we have the archive abbreviation. Then here we have stock, which should actually be fond. Then we have our description, case, the document title, the year, number of pages, and notes. And if we were to go to 1811, it's pretty much the same with a bigger list of districts. And as we scroll down, what we see in some cases, the documents have a preview on the right-hand side. Okay, let's go back to our archives. And let's take a look under Central State Archives. Let's look at TS Davo. Now here in each archive, you'll see on the left-hand side the word fonds, which basically is fonds. And underneath that, we have all the font numbers, followed by the font titles, the year range, and the number of cases. Here it translates as affairs, but this should be cases. So if we were to click on the first one, font number 1, it brings you to a layout like this or something similar. And then if we click on description 1, in this case, it brings you to something like this. Here we see affairs, which should be cases. Underneath that has no numbers or information, just this information in the green box up here. So basically there's nothing here. But look up here, we see archive, then TS Davo. So we know on this website, we're in the archives TS Davo, font 1, description 1. And if we were to go into a case, well, it would be added here. Okay, let's go back. Let's go a little bit lower. And let's take a look at another one. Let's go to number 2. And again, no information. In this archive, if we'd keep looking, we'd maybe find some stuff, but I'm not going to waste time. Let's click on the left side here, archives. And let's go to the second one. Now here you'll notice many of them are red. One is blue. If we click on one that's red, it brings you to this page like we saw before, that the page doesn't exist yet. And in the case of the first one here, it's blue. If I click on that, you see most of its descriptions are red. And if I click on a blue one, its cases are all red. And notice up here, there's a link that should bring you to its website, but in this case, the link doesn't work. Okay, let's get out of here. And let's go to the CDIAC. Now here, most of them are red too, but if I go to some of the blue ones, like in this case, if I go to font number 8, description 1, our case numbers are blue, and if I click on one of those, it brings me to that record book. And notice up here we have a link. If I were to click on that, it brings me to those records on the official CDIAC Archives webpage. And as you see here, the blue book number 434, it's this book. Okay, now let's go back and notice up here, again, we have links. If we were to click on the first one, font 8, description 1, it brings me to this book, which is an index book for those cases, which you see here. And if I click on the second link, it brings me to those actual cases, but on the CDIAC website. Okay, let's get out of here. And if we go to number 25, again, we have a link up here. which brings us to that description number 1 here. And if we click on that, it brings us to that set of books. There we go. Okay, let's go back to our archives page and let's go down to TS Dial. Here, again, most of them are red. Let's look at a few of the blue ones. Description 2, all red, but up here we have a link description, which brings you to a case index for font 52, description 2. And if we scroll down, we see up here we have our case number, case title, year or year range, number of pages, and language or languages of document. Okay, let's go back and take a look at 131. Here, in this case, we get just a link, and if we click on that, it brings us to the Ukrainian Archives official web portal, and if we scroll down, we have our document here. Okay, let's go back. And if we click on 201, Greek Catholic Metropolitan Consistory Lviv, and 4A, it brings us to 2 cases, one which is blue, and a link on top. So if we click on this link, again, it brings you to the case index for font 201, description 4A. And if I click on case number 1, it brings us to this link, which in turn brings us to those records in Family Search. Now remember, Family Search requires an account, so it's going to prompt you for a username and password. Now let's take a look at one of these guys. And there we go. Okay, let's go back to our archives. And let's take a look at this last blue one here, because these guys are red. Here's a link to the official website. Let's click here. And as you see, all the fonts here are red. And if I click on 2, its descriptions are red. Okay. Now let's go over a few regional state archives. Let's look at Vinnytsia. And most of these archives, you're going to get something like this, DRP, with similar year ranges. Let's click on the first one. Now here we have a small table of contents on top. We could use those to go to different types or sets of fonts. So if I were to click here on the last one, it brings me to those at the bottom. And as I scroll up, we see this is a different section and so on and so forth. Okay, now let's look at a few of these. If I click on the first one, description 1, I have no cases. If I go a little lower, still no cases. But if I scroll down and look a little lower, font 171 has 2 descriptions. Let's look at the first one. Here we have red case numbers, which if we click on one of them, brings us to this page again. But the title is blue, and if we click on that, it brings us to that book. There we go. Okay. Now let's scroll down to 217. 3 cases. And as you see, they all have records. Now here, let's take a look at 910, Roman Catholic Monastery. Description 1 has nothing. But if we go to font 904, Metric Books of Churches, it brings us to this big list of descriptions for different districts. And let's click on one of those. Sometimes most cases red, but some of the blue ones have documents. And let's look at another one. And there we go. Okay. If I go back here, up here we see a link, which is basically this book. And when you click on it, it brings you to this type of view. Okay. And we saw 904. If we look at 905, again, we have many more results. And there we go. Okay. Let's take a look at Voen. Here, let's look at the first one. Red descriptions. Let's scroll down to 35. I got 11 blue descriptions. And in the first one, we have these metrical books. But sometimes, as here in description 5, we won't have any cases, and it brings us only to a case index. And let's look at one last one. 96 Lutsk Jewish community, one description, and many cases. Let's take a look at the first one. There you go. Okay, let's go back to our archives and let's take a look at Zhytomyr. Let's take a look at number 1, description 1, case 111. Here we have some records. Now I just want to show you one thing here. If I go to 25, sometimes you'll see a link to Google Drive, but sometimes this is what you'll get, an error. I just want to show you this so it won't be a surprise if you see it. And now if I go down, for example, to font 90, visitor of the Roman Catholic monasteries, we have 2 descriptions. And in the first one, you might see something like this. All the case numbers are black and they don't even highlight when you hover your mouse over them. So basically there's no records here. But if I go to 96, we have only 1 description, but several cases. Now you might get a situation where, as you see up here, my translator didn't translate. If ever that happens to you, you select this, click on it with the right button of your mouse, left button copy, you open up a new tab, go to Google Translate, and you just pop it in there. Okay, let's take a look at number 1, and there we go. Okay. Now let's scroll down to 178. Here you have the links to 2 different catalogs of metric books. And as you see underneath, we have many descriptions. Now let's take a look at the first one. 2 cases. Let's click on the first one. And we have our record book here. And 516, we have a book here too. Let's take a look at description 2. Here we have only an index. And if we go down to description 33, here you see an example again to a link to Google Drive. You might get something like this. So you download it, download anyway. You see up here it downloaded. If I click on that, there we go. And you use the minus and plus icons to zoom in or out. And now that we're in a PDF document, I just want to show you one thing very quick. Here we see it's an index, not the actual record, but assuming this were to be a record, if you would want to save it to your computer, what you could do is you could take a screenshot, and to do that, you press the Windows symbol and print screen. It's going to make a little flash. And then if you press on that Windows symbol again and the letter E, it opens up your file explorer. And here on the left, screenshots. And there will be your screenshot. So you open that. And now if you'd want to have only the document and not the rest of the screen, well, you click on this little icon up here and you drag your corners to the corners of the document. Save options. You could either save as copy and select where you want it. You could put it on your desktop up here. Here you put your title that you want to give it, hit save, or you just select save, close this, and it saves as your actual screenshot. So you open this, and there you go. You have your document nicely cropped. Okay, let's close this, this, and this. Let's go back. And let's go lower, because this archive has many fonts. Let's take a look here at 569, Roman Catholic Church, 1 description, and several cases. First one has a record. And there you go. So here we have a lot of stuff. Let's take a look at 587, marriages and confessional information. as it's titled. Let's take a look at one of these. There we go. 592. Parish lists. There we go. Okay. Let's get out of here. And if we go down to 638, Jewish religious community, one description with many, many, many cases. There you go. And let's look at one last one, Roman Catholic parish. Okay, so let's go back to our archives and let's go down to Ternopil. Here we have only one font, 426, two descriptions. Description 1 has nothing there, just a case index. And description 2 has one case for confession lists. And there you go. Okay. Now you have a pretty good idea of how to go through these, so I'm going to let you go through the rest on your own. The same thing for the branch state archives, institutes, and museums underneath. But just before finishing off this video, I want to take a look at these two churches with you real quick. The first one, St. Dimitrivska Church. Well, up here, a link to the church's website, but it doesn't work. And down here we have several marriage records. If we take a look at one of those, there we go. And underneath that, well, we have two other documents here. And here underneath, if we click on Salatolan, where it pretty much brings you to those documents in this list. And if we go to the last one, St. Michael Church, up here, the link to the church's website, it works. And we have one marriage record. And that, my friends, is pretty much how to use this website. Well, I hope this video was helpful. I hope it adds an extra resource in your genealogical research. If you did find it helpful, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so, maybe giving the video a thumbs up and leaving a comment in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.